Thank you so much for coming, guys. I'm your host, Lily, and today we're going to be really tapping in and talking to how to be a champion of turning insights into growth. And this is going to be an awesome session that's really going to break through no matter where you are in digital marketing, a B2B marketer, you're trying to drive sales for a new up and coming B2C brand, or you're just a content creator who wants to know how they can perform best on the social media channels. We have three amazing speakers who will give you that. So if you hop on to the next slide, we have a really awesome short and sweet agenda where we're basically going to be speaking all of our three speakers. If we've got Jacqueline Cowarden, if you want to give a wave, Brian Gibson, if you want to give a wave, and our awesome Jack Hudson, if you want to give a wave, who will be taking you through the three kind of big pillars and audience groups and verticals of marketing, B2B, using those insights for e-commerce, and then how we can identify, build, and activate a community online. So that real big social content creation. We have dedicated live Q&A time at the end. So any questions we'll answer. And without further ado, I would love to introduce our first speaker. So if you want to go next slide, we are going to be talking to the amazing Jacqueline, which I hope I can call you JC.
You definitely can. Call me JC.
Who has 16 years of experience with some of the world's biggest media creative agencies. And she, if I can say anything, she's seen it all. So her insight she's going to bring today is from, nearly 2 decades of experience, but also bringing through so many different verticals and clients. So, let's start with the burning question. Why are you so passionate about B2B marketing?
I don't know if I've seen it all, but that is quite the introduction. Always more to see, always more to discover in digital marketing, not just B2B. But I think that's just it. B2B has always been just a little bit behind consumer marketing and digital marketing. And so when I joined, I think one of the first agencies that I joined for B2B, we were still picking up a lot of the speed that B2C brands had already been done. So there's just a lot of education to clients and a lot of new tests that we got to do. So that was part of the fun that was there.
Amazing.
I think what we're going to do is actually, before we start talking about the questions, I want to just go through the last 4 decades. I know it sounds like a lot, but we're actually going to go through those before we get into some of the questions. So those that might not be as familiar with B2B can just learn a little, but we will make this kind of the cheat sheet. So if we go back to the 80s, I'm going to call this old school B2B. I think earlier we might have said it was hip hop B2B, but it really wasn't that cool. So we can't talk about it that way. These are your handshakes, your leave behind sales packs, the big collateral that brands would walk into, and so many phone calls. As we got into the 90s, more face-to-face happened. Everyone loved a B2B conference. Business cards were being passed out, and that's how people were making new friends. And of course, at the end of these B2B conferences, there was probably, like a night where everyone just raged. That's kind of how people became friends. But as we moved into 2000, you got to get to be friends across LinkedIn, and that's that online presence, the new emails, all of that became an opportunity to collect leads in a different way. And across these 4 decades, I know it looks like 5 because we're going into the 20s, but across that, the game for B2B has always been, how do we get leads? How do we get more leads? And so you see that journey. And as we got into the 2010s, what happened there, and I'm going to explore the 2010s and 2020s a little bit more, is that it became a new sophisticated playing ground for how we were collecting leads and what kind of content was actually guiding us through that. So let's talk about reshaping in the 2010s and then the emboldened 2020 on the next slide. So in the 2010s, the teenage years, brands really started harnessing big data. So we talk about that, but most of the B2B, especially on an enterprise standpoint, a lot of these enterprise B2B companies owned a lot of data, and they actually weren't sure what to do with it. But shortly, marketers and data scientists, marketers wouldn't have this without the data scientists out there, really discovered how we could be segmenting, personalizing, and having more customer insights. So again, B2C was doing this a little bit earlier in the game. And with B2B, they were looking at buying groups rather than at an individual. But we actually said, wait a second, we need to be personal, even in our B2B conversations. So let's take it back to that. Some of the other trends that we saw, a huge focus on storytelling through a customer lens rather than a product lens. And that is really important because we were selling a brand and a relationship with a customer and that bigger group and two businesses rather than the product itself. The industry had an explosion of content marketing. So content marketing across all the different websites, across different trade organizations, content could now be distributed in multiple places. And so on top of that, social media matured, specifically LinkedIn. If we look at LinkedIn next slide, if we look at LinkedIn, what really it became is a breeding ground for new networks and relationships. The beginning of the decade, we had about 70 million users. Most of those were concentrated in the United States and the UK. By the end, we'd grown to 660 million users globally. So those business cards that we were back doing at those conferences all of a sudden became a lot easier to grow your network and to have different relationships across businesses. We also saw some beautiful and sophisticated ad units. Behind that, the targeting on LinkedIn really went up a notch as well. Account-based marketing was also something we could target by job titles and also company titles, really making that more proliferant. And then we saw thought leadership profiles. We'll talk about thought leadership profiles a little bit further, but this is where individuals became leaders of specific topics on LinkedIn. So content really became this vast empire for LinkedIn rather than just a professional name game. We've heard this before. Have you heard this before, Lil?
Content I have definitely heard this before.
Okay. Well, my own little saying is that content is king, but distribution is queen, and she wears the pants.
I love that.
It's so important, especially across the last kind of 12 years where you distribute your content. The content journey that you take your users on is so important. So distribution, more important than the content sometimes. On the next slide, you'll see that we're kind of talking about the early 2020s. So I call this the emboldened, the golden age, maybe it will be one day, of B2B. And COVID definitely reshaped every single marketer out there. But when you think about B2B brands, they were able to be more courageous in talking about their company values, their goals, and really the customer-centric thinking. They were doing this before, but everyone took that up a notch when they started talking about what it meant in a world of COVID to work with B2B companies that were actually making your life a little bit easier, or your work life a little easier. Of course, desk phones were out the windows. And so what we had is an actual B2B decision maker that got to choose their own journey. And so while we had sophistication through analytics and back-end pixels, that was actually becoming even more ingrained in the way that marketers were using analytics and data to reach decision makers and the content that was most applicable to them. So that gets us up to kind of where we are now in the 2020s. Shall we move into some of the questions that we've prepared?
I was just about to ask, I mean, with 16 years, surely you've had a lot of burning questions, but what would you say if you to boil that down to the most common questions you get from B2B marketers and agencies? What would that be?
So number one, it's always going to be, they're always going to say, how can I get more leads? Cheaper and better. They want cheap leads and quality leads, but we're actually not going to go down that route today. We're going to talk about, in terms of testing new channels, we do get a lot of questions asking how social media fits into their overarching marketing strategy. And then on top of that one, thought leadership as well. So it really is an easy one to answer when you look at it from just social media and thought leadership. Number one, always start with your funnel. And you guys knew you weren't going to get their B2B section without some funnel mentions. But remember, the funnel actually has two stages. We have the pre-purchase stage and also the post-purchase stage. And, you don't have to use a funnel this sophisticated in your own B2B strategy. Some of them might only have 3 tiers. You might use an infinite kind of loop. But when you actually look at the areas where social media and thought leadership are most applicable, it's these two. So you could focus on some concentrated areas. And what you're seeing is that it's those who have never been exposed to your brand before and are still educating themselves on the problem and investigating solution. And then at the bottom of your post-purchase, you're seeing those that are looking, your ambassadors, your evangelists, those that want to engage with your brands in other channels. So Lil, we talked a little bit in some of our prep before that you do have a few favorite B2B brands. What's one of them?
Canva, 100%.
Ah, good old Aussie unicorn. And it's great. I mean, how do you normally engage with them? How do you follow them?
I definitely follow all of their social, but I am like a fangirl when it comes to Melanie Perkins. So follow her every share religiously.
I mean, we definitely all are. And I think that's a really good opportunity where you don't actually have to visit a brand's website any longer to find content or understand who they are, what products they have. Right now, when it looks at how much content we have, social media becomes aggregators of multiple brands and their content. And so you're actually going where your audience is when you create a social strategy. Okay, so we've done a lot of funnels, Lil. Are you done with them?
Definitely done a lot of funnels. I was about to say, let's see what else B2B has.
Okay, great. Enough with the funnels. So, there's a lot of platforms out there. Not all of these are social, but they're all platforms and aggregators of different types of content. Now, if there's any advice that I can give to all the B2B marketers on this call, it's that you don't have to test all of these. And I know your media agency probably at different times wants to give you something new and shiny, but stick to one or two, do them really well, have a statistically kind of significant testing pattern. And if you go back to the funnel, no, not literally on this, but when you're in your mind, when you get off this and you go back to the funnel, think of the content that you already have and see what could potentially sit in some of these if you repurpose it. Look at your best performing content from the last 6 months. How could you rip and replace? How could you give it a different edge to be in a testing pattern for something new? Don't forget about your employees. Your employees are huge ambassadors to your brand. They really can, that's a lot of the TikTok strategy that's going on right now. Don't try to sell your product. Don't look for new audiences. Embrace your employees there, and that organically can move. So what we're doing is testing, but don't test all of them. If you do have any specific questions on these, it's a little bit easier to ask them when they are exact. So pop them in the Q&A and then we'll keep moving.
Perfect. You've already got some questions coming in.
Okay, great. So the next question we get a lot about is really about that content. And so what should B2B brands be talking about on social and then on their thought leadership profiles? It's a great question. I think the first thing we need to talk about, and on the next slide, we used a Microsoft example. This is just, a household name that we all know, is that you have to distinguish between the voice of a brand and the voice of its leaders. Now, you do want the leader's voice to actually feel a little bit, in the same vein as a brand, but you also want them to stand apart. You want them to be able to say things that the brand wouldn't and actually create different followers because they offer up two at different areas. And so, of course, we have some stats that back this up and, in terms of the importance of a leader. And I think that's what it is, a voice of a leader. You want to lead the people, regardless if that is new prospects, if that is dedicated customers, or if those that are just really curious. So a thought leadership presence, of course, does influence your customers. 56% of professionals have said that following a business executive's presence in social media does positively influence the purchase decision. They want to know who they're getting in bed with. And how much in the mainstream media do we hear about these leaders of businesses that do or don't do things that, are deemed acceptable? And it really does have harm on a business as a whole. At the same vein, we know that 66% of professionals are more likely to recommend a company if they also follow that executive on social media. It's that familiarity. It's wanting to know who's behind the scenes. My advice for all B2B brands is really to review your thought leadership content and what channels that should be on as soon as you're off this webinar.
I love that. All right. Note taken. I've got my notebook out. I'm writing that down.
Great. The other thing we talk about a lot is measurement. So almost every B2B company is like, how do we measure social engagement and conversions? It's not as easy with B2B because a conversion means different things. So what I want you also to think about is that measuring your social media, it might be complex, but it's not complicated. complex, but not complicated.
Right.
And it does you do have to make sure you're setting it up correctly and that all of your different teams know exactly what a conversion is and what you really are measuring. But the competitor landscape is diverse that's out there. There's some very staple brands, there's some newbies on the scenes. Of course, you're attending this webinar, which we love, and you'll learn more about our platform, both in Brian's presentation and Hutto's. But with that, really look to see what is best for your brand. There's a tremendous benefit and extreme value for having an aggregated engine that would put all of your socials and your thought leaders into one database that you're able to look at those insights and actually create optimizations in real time. I feel so much pain for any marketer that has to pull analytics from the dashboard of 5 different social channels. I've downloaded those CSVs before. My team's downloaded them before. And the second you have one tool that does it for you, game changer.
Love that. All right. So we have 1 minute to go before we jump on to our next speaker. If you had to summarize, if you want to hop to the next slide, essentially this question: what does B2B marketing mean to you? And any B2B marketer who's on the call right now, what is our take-home homework or message that we need to do going forward?
Yeah, I mean, to be a champion of B2B, you're still, really studying audience behaviors. And so you do need to be where your audiences are. There was a lot of hesitancy and lethargy to actually jump onto social media, especially even Instagram, Twitter, Facebook in the early 2010s. And then we realized they were sitting on so much data, we could find them in the right places. So be where your audiences are, and your audiences are exactly where you are. A B2B audience isn't hanging out in a different watering hole. They're sitting there on the same social media that you are on a daily basis, because your B2B audiences are people. And at the end of the day, and I had a great boss that told me this once, he's like, it's not B2B and it's not B2C, it's P2P. It is people to people. So keep remembering that every content needs to resonate with an individual, and your hope is that individual is so compelled by that content that they then share it for the larger organization of a B2B for the vetting, and how that continues your entire company talking through them.
That P2P saying encapsulates probably perfectly everything you've just shared. So thank you so much, JC, for speaking. And guys, any questions that's popped up, there's already a couple, add them into Q&A and JC will answer them at the end.
Thanks.
So thanks, JC. On to our second awesome speaker. This is Brian Gibson. And Brian Gibson has 25 years of experience across digital marketing. And he has worked with some of the biggest household names, including, the Socceroos, you've got Lenovo, you've got Optus, all the way down to local e-commerce brands looking to just drive sales in the face of when it was COVID and more. So he is coming jam-packed with insights, and we're so lucky to have him. So Brian, if you want to give a wave and start sharing, we'll get into kind of what you're talking about.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining in, and thanks Phil. Really good presentation. JC, really like the slides on the funnel. Definitely something to get your marketing teams looking at is the sales funnel. I live and breathe it, work every day with our digital performance team on making sure that a funnel is set up and they're really thinking about that end to end. So important to remember. So I'm going to take you guys through in the space of 15 minutes or less are these things. So talk through some key stats from the e-commerce industry that we're seeing out of some of the major platforms. I'm going to talk through some insights from our own experience from Digivizer as an agency working with e-commerce and B2C clients, and then just a little bit on measurement and analytics and kind of where to look to find out those key metrics that you need to be measuring throughout your conversion funnels. And then I'll give you some couple of key takeaways that you can go and put into practice straight away. Okay, next slide. So what we're seeing, this is out of global data. So e-commerce spend is definitely still growing. So we all saw during the key kind of COVID period in 2020, 2021 that the amount of people that were shopping online massively increased, and increased from 53 billion to just over 60 billion in 2021. So they all came in based on these findings and what we're seeing. We're expecting that to probably almost double by 2025. So a lot of data suggesting that's just going to keep growing. People are used to kind of e-commerce and buying online now. So some more data out of Google. So consumer behavior is definitely still changing. So 1 in 4 Australians that were surveyed say they will shop online, and 1 in 5 Australians say they will continue to visit stores. So they will visit stores less frequently, and spend more time online. So definitely keeping that trend line going of people that are, have started shopping online just because stores are opening and people can go back to shopping centres. They will continue to shop online now they've experienced that form of buying. And the third one there is just what we're seeing. Google is telling us that 35% of Australians are looking for local independent businesses and brands. So there's a lot of talk throughout that COVID period, people wanting to support regional Australia and support Australian brands, and also just the effect of having local shipping and not being able to get stuff from overseas quickly. So a really good call if you've got that DNA, that part of your brand, make sure it's included in your messaging that you're Australian brand, you're delivering locally, helping Australian business, that kind of thinking. So the next one is from Think with Google. So people who have negative experience on mobile are 62% less likely to purchase from that brand in future. So we see this a lot, brands that come and work with us, and we take a look at their sites, and we look at their desktop site, we look at their mobile, and there's really poor mobile experience, or it's just slow loading, that kind of thing. Need to make sure you're putting focus on mobile. Get that right first. Even more importantly, your desktop site, especially with B2C, more than B2B, but especially with B2C, people just won't come back again if they didn't have a good first experience with your brand. And it's so easy to shop around for consumers these days. They've got used to online shopping. They know that you can Google and find products everywhere. Competitors are so much more in their face. We need to make sure that every touch point they have with our brand is a really good experience. Can't shy away from this one. So obviously website load speed, you guys have probably heard it before, but it is super critical to get right. There's a lot of data, a lot of the platforms talk to this, that 90% of online shoppers say that on average they'll abandon a web page that takes longer than only 2 to 3 seconds to load. 8% will leave after only 1 second, and 25% of online shoppers abandon a page that doesn't load within 4 to 6 seconds. So it's really important to get that right. User perception is everything. Don't just look at your website and go, yeah, I think it's loading well. Oh, it loads quick enough for me. This is the data that users are telling us, and they'll go to the next competitor. They'll go back, Google the next product, the next brand, find something else online. So really important to get that right and monitor those metrics. So another key part of that e-commerce journey is obviously the cart experience on site. Now we've got to be really careful that we're kind of nailing this area of the user experience. There's no point building up your sales funnel, driving traffic in, pushing them through your funnel, getting to the point where you've got them to the site, they're ready to convert, they go to the cart, and then we lose them for some of these reasons. So this is really some kind of the 4 key things that Shopify tell us they see across all of their merchants, people leaving carts. So it's being forced to create an account. So users, they want that quick experience. They want to be able to go to the cart, they want to be able to check out, not have to fill in all their details, just the minimum they need to get their delivery and get it done quick. Being able to, being forced to create an account in their system is a barrier to people, and the data shows that. So make sure users have the ability to check out as a guest, really important. And if you do need to, obviously have that option there to create an account, but incentivize people. So do things like, offer them 10% off their first purchase, by creating an account, that kind of thing that's going to push people through to create an account. Complicated checkout processes. In particular, we see this on mobile. On the mobile experience, people have a lot of text, terms and conditions, all that kind of thing. Really think about how it looks on mobile, because we do see that's a reason that people do drop out. The next one is a massive one: unexpected delivery costs. Anything relating to shipping. So free shipping is good, obviously, but expensive shipping delays. Hidden costs that they weren't aware of until they got to the cart stage. So be transparent as possible in the lead up to them getting to that final, seeing the delivery stage. Really important to get right. It's probably the number one reasons that people will jump off and go to a competitor. There's similar products out there. That's a really key thing where people they'll just go straight. They'll Google someone else. They'll find someone with cheaper shipping, free shipping, faster shipping, that kind of thing. So really important to solve that problem. And there's just concerns over security. Mainly we see this with the smaller brands that come in. If you're not a massive retailer like Iconic or other kind of e-commerce stores, that kind of thing, you're a smaller brand, especially just starting out, you need to make sure that you're making sure that people, they've got the perception that you're a reputable site. So use things like the payment gateway logos and that kind of thing. They are all secure. If you're using things like Shopify and BigCommerce and WooCommerce, they do have secure payment gateways, but user perception and everything. So we're going to make sure we communicate through green ticks and, you know, the payment gateway logos and that kind of thing. So they're the top reasons abandoned carts. The reasons we see e-commerce tools fail, kind of aside from all the stuff we said, we've called out poor user experience, get your mobile experience right, not having a marketing funnel in place, or just a poor marketing funnel. So not talking the right messages and the right content people at those different layers. So top of funnel, brand awareness, middle of funnel, telling more of the brand story, getting people through to your website. And then, you know, as you get to the bottom, you want to see more sales, call to actions, that kind of thing. You really got to get that right. Lack of SEO. So make sure you're looking into your organic search terms that are bringing traffic to your site. If you're not ranking up in those top rankings on the first page in Google, chances are you are losing traffic to other competitors. And it's really hard to get cut through if you're not kind of competing with those players. So get your SEO right. And no Google shopping ads. So the brands that we talk to, quite often they come to us and they've got, you know, they might have Facebook ads running, Instagram, other platforms. They'll have Google search ads running, display ads, but they've avoided kind of connecting up to Google shopping ads and connecting into their Shopify store or their e-commerce store. If you're not competing with Google ads, you might have done all the SEO work that you can, and you might be at the top of the rankings. But if you're not in that mix of Google shopping ads, you're really going to lose a lot of traffic to competitors, and you're just not going to get the conversions and revenue that you're after. The final one there is around measurements. So just general poor use of measurement tools and analytics and insights. So need to get access to the right metrics to be able to measure your funnel and measure performance correctly. You can see some of the examples there on the right from the Digivizer platform that allow you to go in and get that data at hand really quickly.
Wow, Brian, that's awesome. That's some amazing learning. So then on that measurement point of view, what would you say then are the biggest kind of things and key metrics and key, you know, programs and campaigns and things that e-commerce B2C marketers should really measure and keep their finger on the pulse for?
Yeah, really good question. And I just so happen to have some slides prepared to answer that question. So the first one is know which platform is driving your best return on ad spend. So return on ad spend is something super critical that we invest a lot of time at Digivizer kind of looking at these performance metrics. So return on ad spend is basically it's the amount of revenue that you see from a campaign or a platform or across a period divided by the amount that you spend on it to give an indicator of how much return you're getting per dollar of spend. So in this case, with this brand, you know, spending this amount, they got revenue that was 2.5 times. So 2.5 times the spend that they got. So $2.50 for every dollar back. And it's really important to kind of look at that across platforms you use. So look at, you know, Facebook, Google Ads, Amazon, TikTok, and so on, and work out where your ROAS is best performing to get indicators of where that funnel is really performing and where you can optimize effort and maybe optimize some effort away from, move budget around, or really try and understand why platforms may be underperforming others. So ROAS is probably the first key thing to look at. Where your sales are coming from. So this kind of view, looking once again cross-platform, looking at things like conversions value, cost per conversion, you know, between Google Ads and Facebook in this example to really understand, okay, Google Ads is driving more conversions for us than Facebook is driving sales. So important to understand where your sales are coming from. And then which individual ads are performing best across all platforms. So getting this kind of view across all your platforms and all your different levels of creative. In this case, you can actually click on this and be able to see the visuals on that creative and talk to your team about, you know, what you're seeing. This is better performing than others, but really looking at things like click-through rate and conversions and that kind of thing at that level to work out if your content's performing. And then the fourth thing is just where your users are coming from. So getting this level of view, once again, across platform, looking into Google, Facebook and all the other platforms, working out where those users are coming from and which users are, which platforms are driving those sales for you and where the most revenue is coming from. In this case, in this example, so Google Paid is obviously driving more traffic to the site than Google Organic, and so on. And then the final thing is just looking at those SEO search terms that I was talking about before. So really diving in and looking at you know, the organic search terms that are driving traffic to your site, and then in turn turning into conversions and, you know, traffic and conversions on your site. So looking at, you know, what's giving you the most impression share on Google Ads and other search engines, and then what's driving the most clicks, which has got the best click-through rates, and being able to see kind of where you're performing, where they're ranking, so you can make changes, SEO changes on your site to get those kind of heading in the right direction. So just kind of encapsulating what I took you through. these key takeaways, the 4 key takeaways that I've got there. So improve your mobile experience. We talked about get that right or you'll lose customers. Solve your abandoned cart issues. So really important, don't get people through the end of your funnel and just find they're dropping out of that final stage and going to a competitor. Monitor the right success metrics. So ensuring that you are really setting up those key success metrics when you're building out those funnels. Is it just the sales, or you've got brand awareness, or you've got click-throughs, and that really know what you're measuring and being able to access that data. And then optimize your marketing funnel, your campaigns, and your website based on insightful data. So talk to your marketing teams about what you're seeing here, the data, that what's working and what's not, and making changes, implementing those changes as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. And to reiterate what everything Brian said, Brian is coming from not only creating those end-to-end strategies, but building those websites as a web developer, and being creative on the ads that are about to be pushed in, and then building the paid media. So he's coming from the whole 360 view of what we can do as e-commerce marketers to really drive our sales and our ROAS and our conversions forward. So thank you so much, Brian. And we can see a lot of questions coming through. So just a reminder that we will get through to them quickly, and we promise they'll be answered. And just before we'll switch into our next speaker, I just wanted to give a shout out. So this next speaker is someone who is not only an incredible gamer and content creator himself, but he is someone who also uses every day these learnings and this data and these insights to lead up other creators. And so he has a really proven history in not only what he does personally, but helping others across the industry do that too. So without further ado, please meet our third speaker, Jack Hutto. How are you today, Hutto?
My God, what an intro. Let's see if I live up to that, I guess.
All right, let's go.
That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to live up to the intro, okay? But look, there's me being super hyped. I have a button up on there. I have a button up here. I work from home. That's a big deal. So everyone needs to listen. But I'm here to talk about how to identify, build, and activate, communities online, ambassadorships, influencer programs. There's lots of different names for it, but it's all the same thing. I got a little about me, who I am, because I'm the cool one with the cool background. But I've been creating content since 2011, live streaming, VOD video content creation as well. Started Go to Game in 2017 with an awesome team, and now running that for the last year or so. I wanted to throw in here the MCV Pacific 30 under 30, because it's not the global 30 under 30 with all the billionaires. It's the the cool underground 30 under 30 in ANZ region, where all of us now over 30-year-olds try and look cool, to all the nerds with their colorful backgrounds and their PCs on display, which I definitely don't have. And then there's a few more.
All right, speak for yourself. Let's go in. Tell us more.
Look. There's a few more cool things there as well. So, but again, the main thing here is I work sort of on both sides of the gaming space as a content creator, and also running an agency as well. So the first thing I wanted to jump in is introducing Go to Game and the Facebook gaming. So lead Go to Game, I guess, is what we call it, the go-to place for gaming influencers, promotion management, and end-to-end gaming marketing. One of the cool things is, we worked with a lot of cool different brands over the last 4 or 5 years, a few big notable brands there. I'm sure you'll recognize a few of them. And over the last 10 months, we've come on as a Facebook gaming partner as well. We are one of the CSPs, or creator service providers, in the ANZ region. We're currently managing 60 plus Facebook gaming partners, helping them grow and earn on the platform as well. So the first thing I wanted to jump in and talk about is how to build and activate, I guess, a successful community. I'm going to talk about a few campaigns we've done over the past couple of years, and then jump into a very important hashtag, one of my own that I've built with my own community online as well. And the first one I want to talk about was Lenovo. So Lenovo, huge global brand that you've probably know of, and possibly heard of Legion, which is their gaming brand as well. That was a brand that we'd worked with for a very long time, Lenovo ANZ, across a lot of different genres, I guess you could say, lifestyle, tech, fashion, all that sort of stuff. And then we really wanted to sort of start pushing more into the gaming space specifically. And that's where we helped Lenovo bring Lenovo Legion into the ANZ space. And that was a brand new brand for them. So Lenovo, huge powerhouse in the tech industry, but their Legion brand it was brand new. No one had heard of it. A few other big brands had been doing a similar thing. So Lenovo jumped onto that and sort of pushed into the gaming space, and we really helped them do that. The one thing that we'd realized working with brands and working with communities over the time is to really have a brand that really ingrains itself into a community, especially a smaller community like the ANZ space, is using content creators. So using content creators is a great way of spreading a brand and getting a lot of really good brand awareness, especially if you're working with the right people. And I think for me, the main thing that I take away from a lot of these campaigns is partnership. Partnership is the word that I love to use because it has to be a partnership. Most of the time I won't work without it. You've got the partnership from the brand really supporting the creators, and then you've got the partnership of the creators really supporting the brand. And that allows the followers of both the brand and then also the content creators to really get involved with the brand as well, which improves it greatly, allows the reach to go as far as possible. And it really just I guess allows both brand and content creator to work together and really grow the partnership over quite a long time. So we helped Lenovo Legion come to ANZ market. Another one I wanted to talk about was with Bethesda Softworks. They are a game developer, game publisher, sorry. And this one is really cool. I love tattoos. So this was something that we tried to work on for quite a while, doing a tattoo event, something that you've seen on the internet, but we hadn't really seen here in the ANZ region, and something that Bethesda was super on board with. And this one specifically around a game called Rage or Rage 2 that hadn't been, Rage 2 was the second game from Rage, hence 2, but it had been a number of years since the original one came out. So there's a lot of hype around it. And we wanted to use more of a hashtag strategy with Bethesda around no rage grets. It's a little bit of a fun kind of thing, and it really got the community involved. We did a live stream event which had a huge audience. We had 4 tattoos done on live stream, including the community managers of Bethesda, including myself as well, which was really cool, and a few content creators. So using hashtags, using content creators, using the brand itself and the people that are known with the brand all collaborating together really allowed this to really blow up into what it was. We ended up hiring out a whole studio, doing 30 tattoos in a day. And the main video there, a guy drove from Melbourne with his friends to Sydney, ended up getting his first tattoo at the event, which was a no rage regrets tattoo. And, really, really sort of ties it all in with community, hashtags, using both brand and content creators as well. The third one we'll talk about is an ongoing partnership we have with Alienware Australia, and an amazing content creator named Rudism. He does some of the most insane contraptions and controllers you'll ever see. Recently has turned a Fisher & Paykel controller into an actual controller. The sounds still work. It's great for engagement. It's great for content. And then he's got the sponsorship tags there with Alienware as well. So the brand Alienware really supports Rudism with everything he does with computers and PCs and whatever else he needs to get what he does sort of into gear. But then he also shares the love back as well. So he's making these controllers and he's showing the support of Alienware as well, which has really allowed I guess Alienware to really sort of continue to grow in this region, but it has allowed Rudism to grow as well as a content creator, and then his following to be able to say like Rudism's really killing it. He's able to do all this stuff. He's able to travel with his laptops and really grow at home and stream and create content, which is supported by Alienware. So it's that partnership that we really kind of want to focus on there. This is one that's personally for me. The other stuff is go to game and brands and campaigns and hashtags and how it all works and the partnership. But this one is mainly for me as a content creator and doing it the other way. So not looking about it a brand and how you work with a content creator, but how myself as a content creator can really put myself out there using my own hashtag campaign as a creator to try and push back and have a brand recognize me and the content that I make and the community that I've built on trying to get them as a brand to come on board with what I'm doing. A little challenge here, huge red challenge thing, very visual, easy to do. I would love for you to check this out. It's a pretty funny hashtag, probably some stuff there that is a bit weird, but just on Twitter, the main platform is searching hashtag make Cuddle a monster. It is something that I would love everyone to check out. Really shows the community getting involved and really kind of me trying to grow my brand, but also bring on Monster Energy as a brand as well into what I'm doing. Yeah, so something to have a look at. A little bit of funny stuff in there, so check that out. And yeah,
challenge accepted.
And the next thing I'm gonna jump into this. There's a couple of slides here, but measuring the success of a community activation using hashtags. Everyone knows what hashtags are, but the main kind of takeaways here about what our hashtag campaigns is. Hashtag campaigns are an easy way for you to have a brand and then really get involved with the community and have your brand's message spread across a wider audience. It increases engagement with followers. It allows followers to follow along with a lot of different things that you're doing, whether it's different products, services, events. You can change these up. We don't always have to have the same hashtag. You can have one that's sort of very branded, but then you can have a few different ones with different products and services that you're doing. The one main thing for us as well is it allows us to have a look at user-generated content, whether that be from followers creating content for the products, the brands that you're sort of promoting, or it also allows you to pick up on the content that your creators are also creating as well. So you can grab those and push those to your own socials. It allows you to grab engagements and push your own brand while also supporting the creators and the following and their followers as well. The next thing is why you need to sort of track hashtags. I guess the main thing here is obviously you want to keep up with what your community is talking about. It's obviously going to be able to look at the hashtags that are working for you and your brand and also your community as well. If you're a brand or an agency that's working with content creators and they're also working with brands, it allows you as well to kind of look at the hashtags that are working for the creators and allowing them to grow and gain followers, which is going to help the brand in turn as well. So having a look at all of that, so from a brand perspective, from a creative perspective, and then I guess in that midterm of the agency perspective as well as trying to grow the creators, but also trying to grow the brand as well. It's definitely something that's super important to have a look at from all aspects there. And one of the main things with hashtags as well is, I'm sure a lot of people know about this, but it's something to really kind of have here as a key is that there is a lot of best practices, a lot of different platforms. There's a lot of information out there as well on what's best, how many hashtags is best, what hashtags are best. So definitely do a bit of research here, or reach out to an agency that does sort of specialize in this and ask some questions and sort of get a bit of help with that as well. We have a lot, I guess, to go to game, a lot of hashtags that we've used in the past, a lot of campaigns and a lot of successful campaigns that we've done in the past as well, across all different platforms. So there's a lot of definitely a lot of help out there. And then one of the last things here I wanted to talk about was the importance of looking at your top content. Something that we talk about and something that I learned from someone that's actually in the chat as well. I'm sure he's going to love me saying this, but the 80-20, the little bit of a split we like to use is 80% of your content is using content that you know that works for your platform and your audience, and then growing your audience, and then always trying to find what the next best thing is. So 80% of that is what you know works, and 20% of your time spent is finding the new thing, trying a different game or trying a different set of hashtags or trying a different style of content to try and find the next best thing, because that next best thing may take your content to a whole new level, and then you'll do 80% of that and then 20% of trying to find the next best thing as well. I guess that's kind of everything for me.
On that, I mean, you work with Intel, you have an obvious PC plug behind you. How do you measure with all of these brands, how do you measure the impact of the campaigns you're doing across so many native platforms, Hado?
Yeah. I guess that's a hard one because you've got a lot of different platforms. You've got Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and all these different platforms. So if I was going to go back to, PLE or Intel or whoever I'm working with, I'm going through and I'm grabbing links here, I'm grabbing information here, I'm on my phone, I'm on my PC. And, I guess I just wish there was a way to have a look at that all in one place, I guess that possibly a great segue, Lil.
What a coincidence. Well, if you stop sharing your screen, I think I may have the remedy of exactly.
Tell me all about it, please.
Thank you so much, Hado. So we'll jump back in here. I think if we can summarize everything that the three speakers are saying, it's really measure everything. So being a champion of what those insights are telling us. And look, a shameless plug, and before I really get into it, we will have a Q&A. Digivizer offers this at an affordable price for everyone. So before we jump into that, let's jump into a Q&A. So we do have a lot of Q&A questions. And so what I'll do is I'll just answer them. If you want to pop them in Q&A, we're going to run through probably about 5. We've got one from Ria in the audience. Brian Gibson, should there be a difference in strategy of the B2B and B2C funnel?
Switching myself back off mute. Yes, short answer is yes. They're obviously going to be different from a different content point of view, target audience, and that kind of thing. Yeah, and probably the main reason, I'll be pretty quick, but the main reason that we see the difference is the different volume of users within a B2B versus a B2C marketing funnel. B2B's obviously got a much smaller kind of person versus person size, and you've got to really think about almost phasing your approach to build out those audiences, because you can't run a bottom of funnel if your audience is not a significant size. So you've got to really build up those funnel sizes and push them through before you can switch it on. Whereas e-commerce, you can generally, you've got a bigger audience, you can kind of hit go all at once. So that's probably the quick answer on how to kind of set up the different funnels.
No, that's awesome. All right. Thank you. Does that answer? Hopefully it answers your question, Ria, if you want to put a thumbs up in the chat. We've got one here for JC. So obviously TikTok, it's the new kid on the block, but it is a bit of a murky area. Should we post on TikTok and maybe Instagram if we are a B2B brand, or LinkedIn is the right platform? What would you say for that?
Yeah, I know we didn't get into this too detailed. So Instagram, I'd say absolutely. Your strategy may look a little bit like your LinkedIn strategy, but also follow your competitors, see what they're doing on there, or even some aspirational brands that you're looking for. And I always say stick to content pillars. So think about 3 to 4 that you want to keep within regular cadence. Now, TikTok is a different story, and it is a little bit obviously not the new kid on the block when it comes to the platform itself, but how B2B brands are relating to it. There is a lot of buzz about the kind of, overarching response of TikTok when it's done well. But what we're seeing a lot of B2B brands is starting with an employee first strategy. And with that, you can use your employees to be the ambassadors, and it looks really organic. And through that, just make sure you know what you're driving to. So where on your website are you sending them? Are you sending them to a gated lead gen form after you've videoed your employees that have been there for 5 years? So think about what you're doing on TikTok, where it's taking them to, and what you want to build within that community. I would actually say start with your employees and some of your customer stories on TikTok first, and then measure, test, and see what is going to stick.
Amazing answer. Thank you, JC. We've got one from Reese Williams for Huddo. Jack, is it better to engage well-known influencers or help build a smaller influencer up alongside your brand, almost sharing the growth with them? What would you say?
That's a good one, because that is that's something that we've looked at quite a bit over the years, and we've definitely done both. We have worked with huge content creators with millions of followers and had really successful campaigns, but I feel like they're more of like a month on month or a one-off kind of thing. So when we look at building always on programs or 12-month, 24-month sort of brand activations, we've always kind of gone with the mid-tier, because it allows you to work with them a lot more closely, allows you to kind of help them with their content as well, and sort of grow together. So I feel like for us, and especially with Lenovo and the No Rage Grats and a few of the campaigns, we've a lot of the time worked with a lot of content creators and a lot of mid-tier, and then sort of grown together.
Amazing. All right, awesome. Hopefully that answers your question, Reese. Let us know. We have a question from Alan in the chat, maybe for all of you guys, but what's the time scale for changing direction? Using my data, how long do I let my program run before considering a change or pivot? And can I wait too long? Can I go too soon? The question of the answer, you may as well be asked, what's the meaning of life, Alan? But what would we say for that?
I can jump in there.
Yes,
Brian, and then I'll answer it from a B2B.
So my quick answer would be to be honest, that's a question that we deal with on a daily basis. There's always this balance between, setting up campaigns, switching them on from a paid point of view anyway. There's a certain period, they can take weeks sometimes to get out of learning with the platforms, and but at the same time you want to be optimizing and switching, as soon as you see the insights, switching things on. So you're always trying to get that balance right. So let them kind of get through learning, don't go too early, but when you do get those insights after you've agreed on your 2-week run in, then you want to make changes as soon as you see the data indicating when things need to change.
Amazing. JC?
Yeah, I'll jump in there because there was also a question that was kind of relevant, saying how do you measure a marketing strategy? And the side note to every marketing strategy should be some strict KPIs. And I think you have to be very honest with your business organization on what those KPIs are and the time frame in which you can reach them. Specifically for B2B, you need to understand your sales cycle. And the B2B experience usually has a longer sales cycle. There's other, kind of SaaS-based platforms like ourselves that would be quicker decisions, and especially when you're in that lower end. But there are some B2B cycles out there that are, 6 to 9 months long. And so you have to be able to measure what's on the back end if you're mapping towards it. But you could also make your KPIs those that are tangible within 1 to 3 months. Usually 3 months is for B2B, where you want to have a stability or a benchmark in order to know what you're looking at, though.
Amazing answer. Alan's given a thumbs up, so we're going to take that as a good answer from both of you. We also have another one for Ria for you, Brian. In your opinion, what challenges will impact the marketing industry in the next 5 years? Another great question.
Yeah, really, really good question, Ria. So yeah, I mean, the elephant in the room is probably kind of iOS 14 and the changes that happen in terms of third-party cookies in relation to that. I see that as being a big challenge that brands are going to have to overcome. Kind of, it's now really. It's not in time. It's happening now. But really thinking about how do you use your own lists? So using email lists, using your website traffic and that kind of thing, and really trying to own as much data of that as you can, and getting from permission to people to use it. So being able to use it for retargeting and in-your marketing and email campaigns and that kind of thing. So really tapping into your own data. I think that's something that's just going to become more and more value in that kind of own information that you have on people.
Amazing. Jack, we've got a question for you as well. Are there any specific red flags or green flags when brands are approaching you for content creation?
I guess I could look at this in sort of two ways as well. Like for me as a content creator and working with a brand, I guess it just sort of has to work with what I'm doing. There are a lot of brands that have reached out in the past and, at the same time offered really good money for certain campaigns, but it just didn't fit with what I was doing. It didn't fit with maybe, I don't want to say morals, but maybe morals. But, there's just certain games that I don't play, certain things that I don't do on my stream or on my social channels that maybe don't work for me and my community. So as a content creator, there's definitely things to look out for. But as a brand as well, trying to find the right content creators that are going to work with your brand and able to really connect and sort of grow that partnership. So
would you probably say take home message is being authentic on social and being on you is so much more important than not?
In a way, I guess it depends on the person. For me, yeah. Yes, 100%. For other people, maybe a little bit different, but for me, definitely authenticity and being open and honest with my audience and my community is definitely the way that I work, and I know a lot of people do work that way as well.
Amazing. Well, with 5 minutes to go, if there's any other burning questions, there's been a couple throughout the chat, which hopefully we've answered, and we'll also send you this recording for. But anyone that we didn't, we'll get to. But if there's any other burning questions, pop them in the chat now. Otherwise, is there any last minute things that you take home messages from any of the speakers, or I'll bring it on home and let everyone go to lunch?
Measure.
Thanks so much for facilitating, Lil.
That's all right. So Brian's leading last words, measure. I couldn't agree more. All right, well, let's finish this. So yes, I've got to do it. If you are wanting to be a champion of insights and growth, and you want to measure those funnels and you want to measure what content's working, you don't want to blow your budget, Digivizer, yes, we're here. We offer this in some awesome piece of software. So Digivizer allows you very easily to connect all of your different accounts, all of your different activations into one beautiful plugin so that you can really find those insights really quickly and make those data-driven and measure decisions that Brian would say very quickly to kind of bring that cut through in those conversions. So for everyone on call here today, we really want to make sure that you get that offerings, you get that taste. So not only will you all get access to the platform for a reduced fee of $20 USD. So affordability is our key thing. It's only $69 USD per month. But absolutely everyone on call who has registered gets a bespoke 360 digital marketing audit with one of our own digital strategists. And what we'll do is we'll set you up with the blueprints and do a complete one-on-one strategy review across your content, your paid media, your website analytics, and your influencer collaborations and activations to get you set up on how you can champion and drive those insights home. And then if you sign up before June 30th, you will get the platform for eternity, also at a reduced fee. So all of this will come to you straight after in an awesome email. We'll be in touch. You go to https://digivizer.com/champion to access that. And we'll also send you this. If you guys have any questions, talk to us on social. Digivizer is our handle across everything. We've got a great team of community specialists that can chat to you always. So thank you so much for coming. And we look forward to doing magic with you, talking to you, helping you use those insights. So thanks everyone. And thanks to our awesome speakers. Bye everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. All right, perfect. There's some thanks and some love hearts coming. Thanks everyone. Everyone's so lovely.
I feel like Hutto could play some walk-off music for us all.
Yeah, maybe Hutto, do you want to do it?
Or sing one of the other.
Hutto, how do you sign off in your streams? How do you sign off in your streams?
Just goes, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
Can you zoom into game over? Can you zoom into game over behind you?
Oh my God, I could. I wish I could. I don't have a Zoom lens.
Okay.
Oh
Perfect.
no, sorry.
All right, everyone.
Game over.
Thank
Cheers.
you so much.
Bye.